Welcome back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we reimagine leadership, challenge the status quo, and share the real, raw, and remarkable stories that help us break cycles, find our voice, and lead with intention. And I'm your host, Canny. Have you ever had that moment when something inside of you said, yes, this is right, or no, something isn't quite aligned here? Maybe it showed up as a tightening in your stomach, a sense of lightness, or simply a quiet knowing you couldn't fully explain. And maybe you ignored it because in the professional world, we're taught to rely only on data, logic, and analysis. But what if one of the most important leadership skills we have is the one we're rarely taught to trust? Today, we're talking about intuition and why it's not woo-woo, but a legitimate and powerful leadership capability. I'm so pleased to welcome Jessica Pryce-Jones, executive coach, speaker, and author who has spent more than 25 years in leadership development, helping people make wiser decisions, strengthen emotional intelligence, and lead with greater clarity. In her book and in her coaching work, Jessica explores how intuition actually functions in leadership and why research shows that the more senior leaders become, the more they rely on it. In fact, studies suggest that 99% of CEOs say they use intuition when making strategic decisions. Jessica also will walk us through this really powerful exercise to help you identify your personal yes and no signals. So do not miss that part of this episode. This conversation is insightful, practical, and surprisingly empowering because when we learn to listen to ourselves, truly listen, we expand the leadership skills we already have. So let's jump in, and here you go. Jessica, welcome to Girl Take the Lead. We are going to have the best conversation. Why don't we start then by, if you would, introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers so they get a sense of you and your book.
So, first of all, I want to just say thank you so much for inviting me, and it's a real privilege to be here with you today.
Mm-hmm.
So, my name is Jessica Pryce-Jones, if you're looking for me out there in the world. And I guess, if you want to kind of pigeonhole me, you'd say that I'm an executive coach and an author. But I've been milling around the field of learning development and leadership development specifically for the last 25 years. And I was appalled to realize that it was 25 years. And I guess that I used to be very kind of, analytic, statistic, give me the numbers. And I've become so much looser and more fluid as I've grown up. And that's really what gave birth to this book on intuition. And it was specific. Like I was coaching someone in the States, and we had a really short interaction. He booked an hour with me, and he wanted to hire someone into his team, and it was an executive team, and he'd asked everyone around, and they'd all said no, don't go with this person, but he really wanted to do it, so he wanted to chat with me. And after about 5 minutes, I just said to him, what's your gut telling you? And he said, do it. Well, the proof of the pudding was in the eating, which 6 months later, this person who he'd taken a risk on was a terrific success. And then I thought, often people ask me about intuition because it's really permission. They know it, but they want a bit of permission. But also, I felt that younger people needed some access to this stuff and without having to pay to see me. So that was the genesis of my book. So here we are.
Well, what's so cool about your book is that in the beginning parts of it, you're so grounded. You provide research and you provide insights. And I think anybody with who's used to being in business or leadership positions will gravitate to it instantly because of the way you've written it. But first let's tell our viewers and listeners where you are, because they're going to go, where is she?
Where is she? At the moment, I'm in London, visiting in London and doing a little bit of work in London. But normally, I live in southwest France, so very close to the beach. So if I could get out, get in a boat and sail across the Atlantic, I think I'd probably end up in Brazil.
Well, one of the wonderful things that I've discovered is, isn't it amazing that you and I could be so far apart in miles, but yet so connected in our mindsets?
Yeah, and I was so looking forward to doing this, and I felt a strong attraction for doing, I like a sense of energy,
Yeah.
and that's what I get. That's my positive, my intuition when it's positive is like that. I have this strong sense of pull energy towards something.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Ugh,
I'm
so cool.
looking forward to getting stuck in. So, thank you.
Well, let's start with the basics. Let's first define intuition and basically what you mean by that.
Oh gosh, the basics, hey. I mean, I'm sure that some people spend their life trying to make a definition of this thing, but when you read around it, people talk about a gut feeling, a sense of trust in what you know, knowing without knowing how you know. But I defined it as a feeling of knowing because you have the cognitive part, right? What's going on here, and lots of head people will have it here. But I think many of us also have it here, inside, it's your heart, it's your stomach, it's this energy towards, so it's this feeling of knowing.
Yeah.
So that's why I describe it like that, feeling of knowing.
Do you see in your clients, well, especially those in the leadership positions, that they've kind of turned off their feelings?
Oh gosh, you know what? When my very first job, I was the graduate hire, and I was in a meeting, and I was asked, what does the graduate? It was kind of sarcastic. What does the graduate think? And I said, well, I feel, and this guy cut across me and said, I'm paying you to think, not to feel. I better learn to express this differently. But I think that's if you're working in the corporate world and you need to reposition what your intuition is, I think that's fine. If Shakespeare said, a rose, that which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So, it's fine. You don't mind what you call it. But yeah, this, to be in tune with this thing. And I think many leaders are in tune, but they may not necessarily talk about it.
Yeah.
So I talk about bringing intuition out of the broom closet, because it's tucked away. It's seen as a little bit woo woo, a little bit witchy, but it's not. It's something that we all have, and in any other culture, if we were in any indigenous First Nations cultures, it's kind of like, yeah, are you crazy to not be thinking about this thing?
Exactly. And what's some of the research that you found?
So it was really interesting. So I interviewed a whole bunch of leaders. So we know that people, when they're first line managers, kind of like almost half of them say that they use their intuition. And as you go up the corporate ladder, um, so more and more people say that they use their intuition until you get to CEO level. And then 99% of people say that they use their intuition. And that's obvious because at that level, when you're making important strategic decisions, you don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
You don't have facts and data to go on. So all you have is your, judgment, call it what you want, your intuition, your this sense of knowing. So we know that the more senior you are, the more you're called upon to use it. Hence my thesis, which is, come on, you better learn to use it young if you want to get to the top, so
Mhm.
that you have this inbuilt sense of, yeah, I got what's right and what's wrong, right? Because it also tells you what's wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's one of the fastest ways of learning. And for me, I don't know whether you get the same, this kind of sense of alignment or
Mm.
misalignment. It doesn't, the bits don't quite fit.
Yeah. Well, I usually would always feel it in my gut, in my stomach.
Yeah.
It would tighten up on me if I were in a situation that I wasn't in alignment.
Hmm.
And then I would go, okay, what I'm not paying attention to something. What is it?
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people have that show up in their tummies because there's Rolaids and Tums and other
Yeah.
other remedies out there. Maybe because of us not listening to ourselves or not having that alignment.
Yeah, I do think that the time that we start to really listen to it is the time when we've known something and we've gone against it, and then you have an unholy mess to sort out because you
Yeah.
didn't listen to yourself. Um,
Yeah, I've been there too. Like something's not right here. I don't know what it is. Well,
yeah.
one of the things that you talk about are different types of how it shows up for us in
Hmm.
in different situations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, kind of in three buckets. There's I always think it shows up very clearly for our work, for our worries, for our well-being. So the
Okay.
WWW. Um, in three big buckets. But when you kind of boil it down and you say, okay, so what else is this thing? Of course, there's expert intuition. You know, you've done something 101 times, you walk in and you go, that's wrong, or that's right, yes, do that thing. So it's expert, your expertise just gives you some heuristics for what's working. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing. But I do also think we have non expert intuition. And the non-experts, otherwise you'd say, look, if it only came through expertise, a 21-year-old would have no intuition, which is patent rubbish.
Yeah.
So of course, or yeah, trash, maybe I should say to you.
Rubbish. We get rubbish.
uh, so, you know, we've got this non-expert thing. Yeah, I share with you a little story which I put in the book, which is, you know, I am not a tech wizard by any means. And I was doing this talk at Oxford Business School at Said. And I just had this really strong sense that my laptop wouldn't work. And my entire talk was 7 video clips. And the rest was like conversation with the students and what have you. And each thing built off of everything else. So it was critical that my videos worked. And so I got up at like 6 in the morning, was testing my videos. Yes, it was fine. I put them on two memory sticks. And I said to my head of IT, you're going to come with me. And my talk kicked off. And my the first video was fine. The second video didn't work.
Mm.
Um, put a memory stick in, it was corrupted.
Oh,
Um, third memory stick, I don't know what happened. Everything had disappeared. I got the students doing something, called the IT guy, their IT guy, because my IT guy had slipped out during the first video. And I could feel this kind of sweat running down my back. And it was like, I just knew that this would happen, right?
yeah.
I'm not an expert, but
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, my talk was just absolutely, it was terrible because you know, one video.
But you
Anyway,
tried so hard.
I did try. So sometimes there's nothing you can do, right?
Yeah.
It was, and maybe my learning was, you know, move away from the video clips and do this. You know, if you think it's not
Yeah.
going to work, my plan B was just more of the same, right, rather than different.
Yeah.
So that's non-expert. Then we've got moral intuition, and I'm sure we've all felt that this is the right thing to do in this circumstance.
Right.
Um, Uh, and so I think that that's hugely important. Temporal intuition, again, the timing. So quite often when people get things right or wrong, it's because the timing is right or wrong, and it's you know it's just of the moment, and that's a very difficult thing to feel. But one CEO told me that she had an image of a wave, and when she felt the wave was rising, that was the right time to introduce change um, into her organization. So she would see it as a kind of surf wave.
Mm.
Um, and so quite often we get these kind of internal cues for ourselves. So that's temporal. Then there's social. So
Yeah.
some people are super good at walking in and just, my son does this. He walks into a room and goes, what's wrong? Nobody said anything. He's just feeling it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I
whereas
think
my
I live
second,
with the house of those people.
yeah. Um, and you can, you know, you can see someone and it's looking like it's all great, but underneath you're going, I'm picking her up, right? I'm picking it up. Then we've got team intuition. And this is quite a new one in the research. There's very little research out there about it, but it's how, and this isn't about brainstorming, this is about how teams arrive at better decisions, having aired what intuitively they know and having quite robust discussions. And so for me,
Uh-huh.
when I'm trying to get a team to work, we'll kick off with the intuitive process. What are we all, what's our sense about all of this? And then we'll go through the data. And it's this moving between the two, the analytic to the intuitive, that gets the best results. And there's some
Yeah.
lovely data around that.
Yeah. Is there creative intuition too? Did
Yes,
you
yeah.
mention that?
Boom.
That was like one of my faves. So
Yes,
didn't
they're
want you to
creative.
miss that.
Thank you for picking that one up. So creative intuition, lots and lots of leaders say, oh no, I haven't got a creative bone in my body. But if you are looking for an answer to something, or you can see that you need to be doing something different, that's creativity. So it's
Mhm.
not just about you're a great designer and boom, in your designs come. And some people almost feel like they're channeling that these things just arrive.
Yeah.
But it's you're looking for new answers to a situation, and that's creative intuition too.
Yeah. I guess that could also appear in your teams.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
you can be working as a team on any one of those things
Yeah.
together. It's the
Yeah.
togetherness that gets you the better
Mm.
answers. And even just saying to people, um, you know, we are a team, gets them into this kind of brain sync mode. And when you're in brain sync mode, you're more likely to pick up on what other people are thinking and feeling. So there's some really lovely work done by Professor Hassan, who was at Princeton, on storytelling and how people then start to anticipate other people's stories to the third degree. I mean, it's extraordinary. Um, and their brain waves seem to be doing the same thing. So
Oh,
they're remote. They're in different fMRI scanners in different continents, and their brain waves are still doing the same thing. Isn't that beautiful?
yeah. I think our brainwaves are kind of doing something right
Yeah.
now. They're having a fun dance. If somebody were listening to you right now and they're thinking, I'm not very intuitive, how,
Mm-hmm.
how would you say, what would you say to them to get them started? Is it just sort of tuning into yourself, taking time to listen, or what?
Do you know what? The beautiful thing is that when people say I'm not very intuitive, I rub my hands in glee because actually they are.
Yeah.
And so it's, and they're generally not so many barriers there for them. So when they get the answers, they're so surprised and pleased with themselves. So people who tell me I haven't, I'm not intuitive, I go, okay, let's bring it in. Uh, Whereas someone tells me I'm highly intuitive and they're making the wrong judgments, I think that's harder. That's
Ah,
harder to deal with for me, because they're confusing quite often wishful thinking and ego and bias with intuition. And that is they're different process, they're different thought processes. And so I had a leader like that who kept saying, I'm super intuitive. And then you're looking at every decision that she made and go, oh,
yeah.
painful. Um, this particular one that I'm thinking of didn't last long in their job. That was after 2 years. They were given a huge job. And 2 years down the line, from having literally called it wrong every single quarter,
Oh,
um, it was bye bye.
yeah.
Um, anyway, I was sorry that I never really got to work with that person.
Yeah. Um, we wanted you to read from the book. So
Oh,
can
yeah.
we talk? I think sometimes people get intention
Mhm.
and intuition mixed up a little bit. And you did a nice job of defining those in your book. So would you read that for us?
Sure. So, if anybody wants to get the book or just download it, this is page 38.
Yes.
And so, for me, setting an intention is a really important part of the intuitive process. Just so it's like, okay, brain. And if you treat your intuition like a great friend, you're saying, okay, we've got an intention now. I'm bringing you in. It's like inviting them in to the party. So here we go.
Mhm.
Intention is the action, but intuition is inaction. you've opened the door to see what comes in. So the key is to keep it simple. Just say to yourself something like, I intend now to intuit useful information about these circumstances. Doesn't need to be any more than that. In some ways, you make it more real for you if you say it aloud, and that can also distract your rational brain from filling in an answer. When setting an intention, it's important to keep it positive, meaning, for example, I want to be less closed to intuitive information is better expressed as I'm choosing to be more open for 3 reasons. First, the word I want creates a gulf between what you've got and what you're aiming at. Second, you solidify this negative position in your mind, so it's more likely to turn up as the anchoring effect shows. That's when you're influenced by whatever information or idea is immediately to hand. And third, our brains find negative information tough to move away from, as Dan Wegner's white bear experiments clearly demonstrated. He did decades of research asking people to not think about a white bear. The major problem, of course, is the only way to be certain you've completed the task correctly is yes, you've got it, think about a white bear. So instead, words like I'm choosing imply direction and ownership of what you're targeting. Oh, there we go. I love Dan Wegner's experiments, if you've ever come across them. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But he put people in a room, and the task was to not think about the white bear.
It's like, okay, yeah, right. I've just visualized it. I've seen it. It's scary. Whatever goes with it. Well, I think that's very helpful because I think it grounds what you're trying to get to tell us about intuition. Because people who reject it may do so because they think, oh, that's for woo woo people and spiritually minded people and whatever. But your point that we all have it, we just need to perhaps to know how to use it. And I think by making this distinction of intention is going to be the action or the direction, and the intuition will guide us in whether that's on or off. Did I get that right?
Totally. Yes, Yo,
Okay.
you did. And I think that the other really important point to say is that, look, if you're not using your intuition, somebody else will be. And it is
Mm,
part of your skill set. So why would you want to reduce your skill set? It's for me, it's so fundamental. It's like bring everything you've got to the party. We're living in very difficult times. We don't know what the outcomes of things are often going to be. So if you're listening to yourself and aligning or sensing alignment or misalignment, you just got more information. And that can only
yeah.
be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So how would you suggest we recognize an intuitive leader?
Ooh, that's a good one, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
you know, some people use intuition as an excuse. You know, they say, I've got a hunch. And what that means is stop doing this or
Mm,
start doing my thing. And again, that's not intuition. So I think that you can start seeing an intuitive leader because they're saying, look, I'm not certain about this, but I've got a sense that. So some of it is a language thing.
mhm.
So you'll be hearing it. And secondly, you'll be seeing that they're going to be open to what's around them and coming in. It's going to be less closed-minded like this,
Mhm.
but it's going to be a little bit more expansive and open-minded. Um, Probably they'll be using their emotional intelligence um, and noticing what's going on because noticing is a huge part of intuition.
Yeah.
Just noticing, and I think for me, it's absolutely extraordinary. We're told, oh, go away and listen actively to everybody around you, but we are not taught how to listen to ourselves.
Mm,
Um, and so you'll be getting some information from your intuitive leader that they are listening to themselves and that they are paying attention to what's going on. So I think you'd see some of that. And I think also, um, they'll be bringing you'll be hearing more about who they really are, right? There's no need to close anything off for an intuitive leader. So, um, and many of the leaders that I work with, I don't know about you, is they're fast.
Mm.
You see it coming fast, and you go, wow, you know, you've got what they're bringing you is A, B equals D, um, and that's the sign of an intuitive leader.
Wow.
So we skipped stage C. We've just gone straight there, not in a crazy way, but in a way you go, oh wow, that makes sense. Um,
Yeah, I don't know if I was very fast. I think I tended in meetings to be the one that listened and had all the input from people. I'd hear, there's always the person who jumps out first to have it's like got to be
yeah,
heard. Um, but I could be the one who could identify what was missing,
yeah, that's
like
such a strong.
where the gap was. Like that was a skill that I know I brought to meetings. And I wasn't the first one to speak. I wasn't the one to but I could say, you know, that'll work, but we'll need to do this, this, and this because I think that would be missing if we didn't do that. And we wouldn't be as successful. Like, and it usually was tapping into getting others aligned because I could
Mhm.
sense there wasn't alignment in what in our marketing department what we were trying to achieve, right? Because we have external customers all the time that we're working for. Um, and I could tell, that there we'll need to do this first and get that group, you know. I think that might be an example of me
Yeah,
using my intuition there.
totally. But I bet you didn't doubt it. I bet that once you'd had
Yeah, I didn't.
that download, as it were, you would be going, that's absolutely it. We have to walk the square and bring these people
Yeah.
together. So your social intuition would all been humming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's interesting. I didn't realize that would be what to call that.
yeah.
I think what you're doing for us is helping bring legitimacy to
Mhm.
skill sets that maybe we have and we don't know what to call it because they don't show up on the performance evaluation, right? They don't say, yo, a 5 on the intuitive ability. None of that shows up, but you're helping us give it a name and say, oh, okay, social intuit. Yeah, I can see that I'm pretty good at that.
Mhm.
Yeah, interesting. That's so
I,
interesting.
I think it's invaluable in large corporates
Yeah,
because if you don't have it, then everything else goes pear shaped because you have to take people with you. So
yeah,
for me, it's something I would really want to know that somebody, particularly in marketing, had because you've got such a role to play in the success of the company.
yeah,
So yeah, I think crucial.
yeah. Well, one of the things that I loved that you also talk about, which I think would be so helpful, and if you would read a little bit about coincidence, synchronicity, and serendipity.
Yes,
Such
I
cool
love it.
words. I love all the words, but it's so good if we can understand their differences.
Yes. And just before we go there, I think there's one point that I haven't mentioned, which I would love to, which is the importance of positivity. And maybe that takes
Mm,
me back to the leaders, because we know that when you when you're feeling positive, we know that Barbara Fredrickson did a bunch of work, the broaden and build theory. When you're positive, you can look up and out and you can see more and you can knit things together more. So I suspect, you know, the, the leader that we're looking for, this mythical leader, would have some of that positivity. And
mhm.
then there's some really, really nice work that was done about 20 years ago by some German guys. Please don't ask me to say their names. Um,
We'll put it in the show notes.
um, how positive affect, so feeling, improves the accuracy of intuitive judgments. And they did that by those, those terrible three-letter things like, cheese, salt, and C, or foam, and then you get C out of all of that. So what's the thing that unifies those three ideas? Or cream, skate, and ice, and then you have, okay, it's water. That's the thing that brings them together. But when they were doing those tests, looking for, who could get the insight and the intuition most quickly, it was people who had positive mindset. So I'm sure that makes sense, doesn't it? When you're running around flapping, you can't hear internally what's going on for you, and you can't recognize it. So that's when you go up and take your calms, without going, actually my stomach was trying to tell me something.
Right. Exactly. Oh boy.
So you asked me to read. Okay, let's go back
Yes.
to, you have a meaningful coincidence because the attributes are the same. You recognize there's been an unlikely pairing of two or more elements, neither of which appear to cause each other. So let me just stop there and give you an example. So my son was working in New York, and he went to MoMA, and he was going on the escalator up, and my niece, he didn't know was in New York, was going on the escalator down. And they both were living in London at the time. So it's
So
like,
that was a
oh,
coincidence.
it was a total coincidence. So there was an unlikely pairing of two elements, okay,
Okay.
neither of which caused each other.
Right.
Then there's astonishment, curiosity, or wonder generated, and you're left with the question, what does this mean for me? Because the most salient of coincidences feel not only amazing, but instructive. So the easier part is recognizing a meaningful coincidence, and the harder part is working out what it means. So using a high level perspective, meaningful coincidences can be divided into synchronicities and serendipities. So the former involves two seemingly unconnected events happening. So, for example, I just had three coaching clients wanting to talk about the same issue. And you go, whoa, okay.
Mhm.
And the latter often involves finding something you haven't been looking for. So that might, for me, often be reading a seemingly random academic paper or article, which is then appropriate for my next coaching session. So these meaningful coincidences differ from intuitions. So intuitions are internal events which involve your feeling of knowing, while a meaningful coincidence is external and involves something happening out there in the world. For example, having a strong sensation to call an ex-colleague might be an intuition, but it would be a meaningful coincidence, a synchronicity, if you have that thought and before you could call them, their number flashed up on your phone.
Yes. Yes. Interesting.
I had that last week, and a colleague, an old colleague, I thought I must talk to Vicky. I've got a question I want to ask her. And I rang Vicky, and she was going, "Oh my goodness, did I call you or did you call me? Because I was wanting to call you." It was me.
That is so, I often think sometimes that, okay, for my listeners, I know I can get a little woo woo here, but I think sometimes the universe is trying to hit me over the head with something. And so it'll try all these different routes to get my attention. Like, and then I'll go, oh, I'm finally getting it. Like whatever it is. Like if it's like for me to work on a particular area in my life right now, I'll see a book come through. Oh, and then there's the movie. Oh, and guess what? I've gotten served up on all my social media has been around this topic. And I'll say to myself, how on earth is that being manifested right now? Because there's like alignment.
Yeah, exactly. It's all coming through, and I always think that that's something else because I spend a lot of time scrutinizing how my phone does not serve me up stuff, and switching everything off and being super careful that it doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
so pay attention. Mhm.
well, thanks so much for explaining those because I think that makes it a lot easier for us to understand. So lastly, Can you walk us through how we can recognize the yes and no in making a decision?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna just give you an exercise, a little exercise that I do with everybody. And so okay, so if you're listening, what I'd love you to do is, and I'm gonna join along with you, I'd like you to think of somebody or something or some place that you really love, and try not to make this a donut or a cream bun, but try and make it something, a special person or a really special place.
Okay.
Okay. And just take a sec to lodge that in your mind's eye, because we see things in our mind's eye, and then we might hear things in our mind's ear, and we'll feel them in our internal body. So when you've got that, I'd love you now just to close your eyes and imagine that you are in that particular place with that particular person. And you really can feel these feelings of love really swelling up for you. And you just want to dial them up a little bit further. You really, after the feel good here, you really want to notice the feel good. And when you've just wrapped the feel good as much as you can, I'd love you just to take a little excursion through your body. So let's start at your head, your throat, chest, arms. How's your energy feeling in this? Sense of connectedness? What's going on for you in your core, in your legs, in your feet? Okay. And just really notice how beautiful it is when you've established that amazing connection with this place or this person that you love so intensely. Okay. So, Yo, I'm going to ask you now if you'd like to open your eyes and tell me, what did you experience?
Lightness, like
Okay.
my and one of my dear friends who listens to our podcast will know that I go to Twin Lakes um, with her, and we are on the little beach there, and that that is my place, with
Mm-hmm.
and I could hear kids enjoying the water and just having a great time, and but my there was just light, like white light in my head going through my body. Um, and yeah, it was like
Okay.
that.
So the sense of, yeah,
Yeah.
as well. Okay. So lightness, white light through your body. Um, uh, okay. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that my throat expands a bit, my stomach relaxes. I just want to sit and literally embrace this thing. So it was my daughter. Um,
Um,
so I bring her to the party. Um, and I feel this this kind of sense of movement, wanting to get, to give her a hug. Okay, so now what we're going to do is do something else. So let's shut your eyes again. And I want you to tell yourself that you now really hate the thing that you've told yourself, the person, the place you've just told yourself that you love. You really hate them. I'd like you to try and engender those feelings inside you. We're just going to not do this very, very long, but tell yourself you hate the personal place that you were just thinking about. And again, let's just notice what's going on for you. Um, what's going on in your hands, your head, your throat, your chest, your stomach, your body, your energy.
mm.
Anything else come to mind? Okay. I won't keep you
Okay,
there
it
because
went
it's not a
dark.
great place to be. Okay, it's not a good place to be. So it
Yeah,
goes dark
it
for
went
you.
dark. It went real dark. And my stomach, again, that's where I go first. And it got tight. And my hands were like fists.
Hands are like fists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
So hands, fists, it goes dark.
Mhm.
For me, my throat closes up, my
Yeah.
chest gets tight, my stomach goes bald. Um, yeah, and I noticed I have my feet start like they want to move, right? They
Mm.
they don't like this, they want to get away from it. Um, okay. Right, let's just do a quick check-in. I really like to think now, just do a quick check-in. Think about a person or a work experience that was really super negative for you, and just close your eyes and go, okay, where is this happening?
It won't take much.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it?
Yep.
What's going on? Check in.
It
Tell
was
me.
like, um, there was a blankness. There wasn't like
Okay.
a color to it.
Thank you. Okay.
But it was blank. There was like, and it wasn't as strong as hate at all, you know?
No, it would never be.
Yeah.
So the first exercise, if you always want a yes, that's what your absolute
Gonna
most
feel.
intense yes will feel like,
Yeah.
and what your most intense no will feel like.
Yeah.
So I've given you, yeah, yes, the thing you love, that's going to be your most intense. Your most intense no will be, hang on, no, I can't do that, right?
Right.
Um, so the blankness that you experienced, right? You told me it was white, light, and this lightness before.
Yeah.
But we're not
Yeah.
getting that, we're getting blankness.
Yeah.
So then when you're thinking about work, so what's the relative thing? So it for a no there, because that would be a no, right? Don't do that to me again.
Yeah.
Um, you get some blankness. So for me, I was going, oh yeah, okay, my tummy, it's not feeling as intensely no, but it's feeling a little bit, oh no, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
can feel it up under in my abdomen rather than down right in my gut.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just about for anybody who wants to learn to use their intuition better, this yes no is very useful. Just tune into yourself and what's in your mind's eye. Where's your energy for this? I bet you didn't want to go do more of the same.
I like being in the light.
Yeah, exactly. So goodness, it's like no thanks, I'm leaving you there. So if you want to get good with yourself, it's just to start when you're in a situation and you're uncertain. It's just tune in. What am I getting for me here in this situation? Am I getting the white light? Am I getting the darkness? Am I getting the blankness? Am I getting a loose throat, tight throat? So
Yeah.
these are your own tells. That if you, the better you know your own process,
Uh-huh.
and I did some work with an Indian guy who kept saying to me, "Tell me what the back of your knees are telling you." Oh, they're not speaking to me. um,
Yeah.
because he was trying to get me to tune in to other things. What are you saying? What are your shoulder blades telling you? Oh, no idea. He said, I want you to tune into your shoulder blades. So, we can start using other parts of ourselves um, to tune in about where are we in this situation.
Oh, so cool. Jess, that is so wonderful. And I think hopefully our listeners didn't try this while they were driving, but that they
Hopefully,
they pull over and did the exercise with us. Oh my goodness, that is so good. And I love the idea that we could learn how to listen to different parts, like my hands, our feet, like you
Hmm.
were saying. I love that. We could talk forever.
Can I give the listeners one more tool? One more
Sure.
tool. Okay, for yes, no. And I got this from a fantastic guy who's a polar explorer, Matt Pycroft. And I was interviewing him for the book. And I said, look, tell me about when you're making decisions, because, it is life or death when he crosses a crevasse this way, not this way. Um, and, they're shifting and moving all the time. The ice is always moving. And he said, what I do is I toss a coin in my mind. And it's not where, and heads is one and tails is the other. but it's not where the coin lands. I'm tuning into where I want the coin to land. And that is my intuition.
Whoa. That is cool.
Isn't it?
So if he's thinking, does he like, okay, we've got a crevasse and he's deciding how to approach it,
Yeah.
tosses the coin in his mind, but
Mhm.
has he visualized himself across the crevasse
Across it.
already?
No, he's going, well, where do I cross it? I've got to get across it. Do I go here? Do I cross it here? Do I cross it here? Those are, I think, are the best two places.
Right.
Yes, no. What do I do? So it's up, and then he's going, okay. I'm sensing I want it where I want the coin to be. It's that way.
Okay.
So
So interesting. I love this stuff. So, how can our listeners find you, Jess, and follow you and get your book?
So I would be delighted to anyone to link with me on LinkedIn. And we've got there's a little decision making intuitive group if they want to join, and to ask anything about intuition as well. Just contact me directly. I'm always up for being contacted, and they
Okay.
can get my book on Amazon.
Yeah. Excellent. So, Jess, what would you tell your 20-something self today?
I would say to my 20-year-old self would not believe where my life has taken me. She really wouldn't. But what I'd love to say to my 20-year-old self is relax. It's all going to be fine.
Mm,
And all the things that you want, you're going to go and get. And you have all the tools that you need. Don't worry about it.
I love that. And I know you had a chance to go to our online store and there was something that spoke to you.
Oh, there's only one thing that spoke to me, which is the card that said, trust your gut. Woohoo! That's got to be.
That has your name on it, Jess, for
Yeah.
sure. It'll
Thank
be
you
my
so
pleasure
much.
to send that to you. So thank you so much. Just thank you for your book and thank you for joining us and bringing this subject to light so that we can all embrace it. Oh,
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And I think that I sometimes feel I'm working kind of undercover, subterfuge. So it's been just such a pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you. And thank you
thank
for anybody who's listened.
you. My sincere thanks to Jess for such a thoughtful and illuminating conversation. What I love most about the episode is how Jess brought intuition out of what she jokingly calls the broom closet and gives it language, legitimacy, and practical tools because intuition isn't about guessing, it's about noticing. Noticing what's happening around you, noticing what's happening inside you, and learning to trust the signals that help guide your decisions. Here are 3 takeaways to carry with you. 1, intuition is a feeling of knowing, and it's a skill that strengthens with awareness. 2, most senior leaders rely on intuition when data alone isn't enough. And 3, your body often signals yes and no before your mind catches up. If you'd like to connect with Jess, check our show notes. And if this conversation sparks something for you, maybe a moment when you knew something deep inside but didn't act on it, consider that a starting point. Your intuition isn't something mysterious. It's something you can learn to recognize and trust. As always, thank you for listening, for sharing these conversations with me, and for being part of a community that believes leadership grows through curiosity, courage, and reflection. Next week, we'll be joined by Michelle Madrid. She's a podcaster and author, and she grew up feeling invisible as an adoptee. So together, we'll explore some of the emotions around there, shame, and lots of grief. So join us. Until next time, listen inward, lead outward, and remember, the leadership skills you already carry may be stronger than you think. Talk soon. Bye.